G'day, Tim Polner from Agrivision Consultants, standing in a paddock in the Wimmera, assessing mice activity. So mice numbers have really built since harvest, with the good harvest that we had all over Victoria. There's a heap of grain on the ground and they've just been constantly building. Here we see typical hole. It's active. You can see some of the grain that that the mice have brought down. So I'd definitely suggest that this paddock, which is going into lentils this year, will have to be controlled for mice. So zinc phosphide treated baits, that's the only registered mice product on the market, and it works quite well. So a good way to assess whether you need to do it or not is walk 100 metres, and in a diameter of 1 metre, count how many holes, times the number of holes by 200, and that'll give you an indication of how many mice per hectare there is in your paddock. Mice numbers above 200 mice per hectare can cause significant damage, and once they increase over 500 mice per hectare, it's classed as a plague. So if you've got those sort of numbers, definitely bait. The best time to bait is straight after cropping, so as soon as your air seeder's going through, I'd be baiting. Crops that are more at risk are broadleaf crops, so canola and legumes. They have and the reason for this is the growing point of these crops is above the ground rather than below the ground. So cereal crops, the growing point's below the ground, so if a mice does chew the top off, it can reshoot, but if a mouse chews the top off a canola plant or a lentil plant, it can't do this. So these crops are high valued and extra important to control before there's a problem. So as soon as you've sown the paddock, I'd be out there baiting. So the registered rate for zinc phosphide treated mice bait is 1 kilo per hectare, and that should give you good amount of coverage. So.
G'day, I'm Dylan Fox from Agrivision Consultants. I work in the Hopeton Woomlang area. I'm just here to give a bit of a blurb on mice activity that I'm seeing across my district. And I guess I'm seeing quite sporadic numbers of mice around. Some paddocks are quite bad, which I believe are going to require baiting, especially paddocks that are going into a legume this season or even a canola. Those high valued crops that can't afford to be chewed off when they're trying to come out of the ground, as you can have pretty dramatic yield effects, decreases. I guess I've been driving across paddocks in my ute, just looking out the window and counting warrens across paddocks, and some of the worst paddocks I'm seeing are sort of 20 to 30 warrens in sort of a couple 100 metre strip, and I believe those paddocks will have to be baited. Straight after sowing, I'd go through and stir up the ground first and try and bury a bit of seed that is in those paddocks at the minute, and then go back and bait shortly after sowing, before the plants come out of the ground. And I'd be using mouse off as the product. We've seen in the past that home brews, they may have worked, but mouse numbers have still come back. Everyone that's ever used mouse off would know that it's the premium product, and I think you're better off spending that a bit more money up front and do the job once and do it right.